I'm Chris Matthews,
I'm Matt Parham. What's up,
and
buddy?
not much, buddy. I think that's the right direction. So, we watched Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Powers, episode 1 and 2. Find out what we thought about it after this short intermission break intro. I play that intro so many times, like when I'm editing stuff out. Like the kids are so sick of it. They're like, it's crazy. So eventually,
We'll get some
guys,
new theme music for you.
yeah. So behind the scenes information and some good news. There will be eventually. There's another theme song and another intro that's eventually going to be made here, right, Matt?
Yep.
So we're gonna be doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I got the music finalized. Yep.
Excellent.
Making up my own words.
Right? I know. So, yeah, welcome everybody. We're going to be reviewing Rings of Power today. We got to see it. It came out on Friday, well, Thursday night for me, and
Mm.
I got to watch it then. So I've gotten to watch it a couple of times. So we're really excited to go over. I'm really excited to go over this. Are you excited, Matt, to go over
I'm
this?
extremely excited. I've been waiting for this thing for years.
For
And
years.
all the hype, all the buildup finally paid off. Like you said, last Friday, I was able to enjoy it with my wife. We're
Hmm.
both Lord of the Rings fans, and so it's going to be an interesting review. I'm
Perfect.
looking forward to it, buddy.
But first, do we have a dad joke?
We we might have a dad joke, but
Oh, the
I'll
suspense. Stay tuned, everybody, for dad
yeah,
jokes.
I have to update it, of course,
Hmm.
since if you haven't watched it, this joke contains a spoiler. We don't have hobbits in this new series. We have Harfoots in this
Hmm.
new series. And so my joke would be, why would you never ever want to borrow money from a Harfoot?
Why is that?
Because they're always a little short.
Oh, okay,
Woo!
okay, good one. If you like bad jokes like that, dad jokes, I mean, like that,
I
and
think both
and
worked.
and fun reviews, why don't you go ahead and hit on that subscribe button right there? Take that ring to the mountain of doom, throw it in there, and subscribe
Yeah.
to our channel. Like us on here on YouTube if you can. So we're gonna go
Mhm.
get started. I'm gonna swipe over to our title screen for Ring of Power. Boom, just like that. Yeah, we're gonna be discussing Ring of Power. All right, let's go into our review. You want to start, Matt, or do you want me to get going?
Yeah, I can kick her off a little bit here. So,
All right, take her away.
like I said, I've been looking forward to this show for quite a long time. We heard about it in the media first because it was a Lord of the Rings TV show, right? And for everybody out there that's been a fan of the novels, either The Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings series, we saw the Peter Jackson stuff, right? They did it very well. Him and his team and the
Oh,
whole New
beautifully done.
Zealand cast, I shouldn't say New Zealand cast, but the whole cast went down to New Zealand and just made pure cinema magic out of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, covered everything,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Or so we thought. Now, for the true Tolkien fans out there, of course, they know that there are quite a few more books.
so
There's
much.
quite a bit more mythology here.
Yeah, after
And
J.R.R.
so,
Tolkien, after he passed away, his son Christopher Tolkien actually took over too. So
yeah,
he's written a
another
lot of
great
stuff.
set there.
Yeah, I know
So,
another Chris.
but
Superheroes
there's
and fantasy writers. That's you
yeah,
just hire a Chris.
that's right. Or if you want a series on a political intrigue, I guess, or commentary, you can also hire a Chris. But
I guess.
Hardball has been off the air for a few years now, so that's an
That's
old reference that I don't think anybody gets.
uh-uh.
But anyway, there is plenty of mythology to draw on for this series, and so
Oh,
as
tons.
you learned more and more, like, okay, well, this show isn't really about the Lord of the Rings storyline. It's more about what happened before it, and in fact, this is about. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. About 2,000 years in the past of Middle Earth and
Hmm.
and stuff like the Silmarillion book come into play here, and a lot of the historical texts that Tolkien wrote whenever he was alive.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. And I did a little bit of research on that too. That it said that the series is primarily based on the appendices in Lord of the Rings. So there's a lot that they draw from the appendices, which
yes.
includes discussions of the Second Age. It could be its own book too, if
Oh
you
yeah.
separate book all in itself. So it's this discussion about the Second Age, and Tolkien's grandson too on this show, Simon Tolkien, actually consulted on the development of this series. I thought that was pretty cool. So
Oh
I'm glad that they actually got somebody from the family on it as well. So that's
yeah.
really exciting. Yeah, and like you said, it's I think the things that I read too said that it was around 1,000, maybe 2,000 years before the time of Lord of the Rings, the movies that we got to see by Peter Jackson. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is plenty to draw off of for this
Hmm.
series, and really, as a fan, I'm kind of glad that I'm a little clueless on where this is all going to head.
Me
Overall,
too.
we know that the rings of power are going to be forged by Sauron and handed out to all the rulers,
Yes,
and we know that that's going to happen.
and
But
more on
outside
that
of that,
later. So.
yeah, outside of that, we've got a lot of ground to cover
Hmm.
here, and who knows what's going to happen to these individual characters,
Right.
aside from people that have read this extra material. And I have not. So, like I said, I've just
Hmm.
read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. So
Nice.
I'm very excited to see where all of this goes. But I also was intrigued by the fact that whenever they were originally talking about this, there was rumors that it was going to be another set of movies for Amazon, and then it was going to be a TV show. And in my mind, I'm thinking, the Peter Jackson films were enormous. I mean, I'm a fan of the extended trilogy, and the scale of those
Yeah.
films and just how they were shot in New Zealand, it was huge. How are you going to do that for television? Well,
I'll tell
then
you
it
how.
came out
You spend a
that
whole buttload of money.
yes, Jeff Bezos was throwing a ton of money after this thing, $465 million worth of production value
Hmm.
just in these first 8 episodes.
Yeah.
On top of that, it cost, well, I should say on top of that, part of that $465 million was dedicated to just acquiring the rights. About $250 million
It's
went
just
to just getting the rights to this show.
thank you,
Um,
Amazon. Jeez.
yeah. Yeah. And so in my mind, I was thinking, wow, I mean, that's a ton of money. They're going to be able to do a lot of cool effects and things like that. But is the story there? Are they going to be able to deliver a cohesive story along with great characters, along with great set pieces, which is what made The Lord of the Rings
Hmm.
so successful in the film franchise? So that was the big question mark for me up until Friday.
Yeah.
Now, leading up to it, I read a little bit more like, well, why, again, why this show? Why? I mean, it's an established property, yes, and I'm sure there's money to be made on the IP, but what is it that drew this team to the Lord of the Rings universe again? And as I was looking into that, it turns out that Jeff Bezos is actually a very big Tolkien fan. His grandfather introduced him to the books whenever he was in his early teenage years. And so he read all of them. He, of course, was very excited about the series whenever he was young. And he passed that on to his kids whenever they came along. In fact, his son Preston, which is showing the picture now there,
Yeah,
Chris.
I can bring the picture up here. Give me one
Yeah.
second. We'll bring up old Bezos. If you don't know what this guy looks like,
Yeah.
there you go. He's over to the
Jeff.
he's below you, Matt, and over to the side.
Okay.
And that's his
So there's
son.
Jeff Bezos and his son Preston, which his son Preston basically took this passion that Jeff had for the Tolkien universe and ran with it and reached sort of this scholarly level of knowledge on all the material. And he told his dad, whatever you do, don't F up Lord of the Rings. And so he was tasked with this by his own son, and he took it to the showrunners. Now he serves as executive chairman of the series, but the showrunners that he hired, relatively unknown people, And sorry, I just get past them. There we go. Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne
Mm-hmm.
are the showrunners for this first season. And
Yeah.
Jeff told them, "Look, I'm a huge fan. I'm going to have notes for you. I'm going to, be talking about things of the script and the production and all that. But at any time, you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to listen to me. I'm just a fan in
Yeah.
that regard. You guys
That's
take
good.
and do what you want with this." And at the premiere, he actually got up in front of the audience that had attended there in the theater and told them, "I'm very glad that Patrick and JD completely ignored me." And
Mm-hmm.
so he let them do what you now see as the series in front of us. And I got to say, for episodes 1 and 2, I'm very pleased. As a Tolkien fan, I love it.
Yeah.
I think this reminds me of the books and some of the slow burn areas. It reminds me of the scale of the movies, and it just kind of seamlessly integrates itself, reintroduces fans like me into that world again with the music, the effects. You can tell the money is on the screen. It's just a beautiful, beautiful series for episodes 1 and 2. I mean, every effect shot to me is perfect. The creatures
Yeah.
are all done
This
amazingly well. For
this is
TV,
film
it's
quality material that we're getting.
yeah,
This last two
yeah,
hours was amazing.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean when you see the ice troll, when you see the
Oh yeah.
serpent in the sea there, I mean it's crazy how quality the images are. For TV, it's the most expensive television show that's ever been made.
Mm-hmm.
And that does
And it
not get
shows.
wasted at all.
Yeah.
That money doesn't get wasted. So for me, that was a huge selling point. I loved the fact that I could tell that this was just very meticulously crafted and
Mm-hmm.
that the money wasn't wasted. I aside from that, have got to give in just a huge amount of kudos to the cast. I
Oh
loved
yeah.
Orfid Clark just carrying this series, or at least the first 2 episodes. I keep saying that, but I feel like we've seen just a ton of stuff already because of how long these episodes are. But she carries them. She comes off perfectly as a young Galadriel, a very strong-willed person.
Yeah.
She is relentlessly pursuing her goal of avenging her brother's death, and you get that sense from the very first narration. You get that sense from how she pushes her company going further and further
Yeah.
north to pursue Sauron, and you get the idea that she is a well-established warrior. Like we don't have
Yeah.
the typical, vulnerable female lead. No, she is incredibly good at taking care of business on the battlefield.
Right? And it was so nice to see these familiar characters. And luckily, in Middle Earth, in this world, in this fantasy world, we have elves that are immortal. So we're introduced to a whole new setting, and we have these anchored characters that we know from the previous works that are in
Right.
there already. And what I really found was really cool about these characters was they were familiar, but yet they were still unique in their own ways, and quite opposite of what we've seen in the beginning too. What we saw them in the original films, like with
Yeah.
Lady Galadriel when she was played by Kate Blanchett, she was Grace imagined in that. She was and played by
Hmm.
Morfydd Clark. We see, like you were saying, we see this character that's fixated on the quest to find Sauron, and that battle hardened warrior willing to literally give up paradise to continue her quest. And it's the same
Hmm.
dynamic if you look at Elrond too. He's played by Robert Aramayo. Am I saying that right? Aramayo.
Yeah.
He also, like in the beginning of this, he's playing like a bookish, political savvy, bright-eyed elf that we get to see. That's all smiles, and then when we get to see him again in Lord of the Rings, Hugo Weaving is this hardened warrior leader type, sort of the opposite of what Galadriel's journey is. So you see them kind of reverse roles throughout this. So you get to see familiar faces, but in a fresh and new way, and I absolutely love that, man. So it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved it too. I didn't think there was a single person on this cast
Mm-hmm.
that was not doing just their absolute best
Just
in every
bringing their A
single.
game. Oh,
Yeah, it's amazing with as many of them that are there.
hmm
Just everybody sells the roles. Every single one of the Harfoots,
oh,
I absolutely love.
yeah. And for me, like the standout for me in these two episodes was Markella Kavanaugh, and she's the one that plays Eleanor Brandifoot. She's also
Mhm.
known as Nori, and she's that Harfoot girl who's very much in the spirit of Frodo and Bilbo, dreaming of adventures outside of their homes. And
Yeah,
these Harfoots, like we had the dad joke and everything, are basically distant relatives of the hobbits that we see in Lord of the Rings. And for me, it's like that is the best center of all of these shows, and this is what differentiates this from things like Game of Thrones and other stuff, because there's a lot of heart to this stuff, and the
mhm,
hobbits are your portrayal of the heart of Lord of the Rings. And I believe that they have the most meaningful role in the entire story. They
yeah,
give us heart and joy personified, and Nori, seeing her and her wide-eyed look of the world, wanting to see everything and help out where she can. And it's that notion that the smallest deeds can actually change the world, and this is the biggest thing that J.R. Tolkien wanted us to get from these books, and it has that
yeah,
sense of hope, and so I absolutely love that. So Nori to me was the best thing in these two episodes,
yeah.
I gotta say. So that's what I
Oh
thought.
yeah. Well, I mean, every scene was just eaten up, and
Yeah.
I read some of the reviews online talking about that it was boring, and I found this
What?
exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
A lot of people were saying, and we don't know if some of it's review bombing and stuff because there's a lot of people
Right.
talking about the diverse cast and something, and I don't know. For me, I don't even I don't notice that stuff anymore. I'm
I
kind
don't
of
either.
glad that in a series like this, we're
Mm-hmm.
getting to a point where it's just the actors are doing their jobs, and
They
we're
are.
not questioning race. I mean, this is all mythology, right? This is a fantasy series, so
I
race
not even
shouldn't
thinking of
be
that.
a question at all.
Yeah.
But
Well, you
here we
have the
are talking
dwarves,
about
you
it.
have the elves, you got the humans, you got the Harfoots. I mean, we do have races
Yeah,
in
like
here. So,
right,
yeah.
exactly. Those are the races in Tolkien's
Yeah.
universe. But
That's so crazy
I
that people think that this is boring though, too. And I tried to find like critics ratings on this and there's no real consensus on the
well,
ratings, but Rotten
yeah,
Tomatoes
that's
gives it like an 84% for the first episode. I think
mhm,
86% for the second episode. For our listening audience out there, it's episode one's called A Shadow of the Past, and episode two is called Adrift. So just so we get that out
yeah,
there too. So it's real
yeah. And
interesting.
the ratings are interesting because Amazon has withheld their ratings. They said they're going to do that for 72 hours while they try to filter
Interesting.
out the review bomb type of material. They
Yeah.
did the same thing for the series A League of Their Own.
Mm.
And you can go to that series and see that they are not sort of big brothering it and only leaving in the good reviews.
Yeah.
There are one-star reviews on A League of Their Own, and so they're just trying to weed out the people that haven't actually seen the material. They can do that by tracking accounts and that sort of thing
Right.
on Amazon. Yeah, I think that honestly, whatever the reviews say, I look to see, can I sit down and enjoy this show? And I did from beginning to end.
Oh, me too.
I'm very much looking forward to Friday
Me too.
and what happens next. I can't wait to see more of the stranger. Obviously, we're talking about a possible
Oh
Gandalf
man,
introduction.
Matt, you didn't even tell me. You're my best friend, and you didn't tell me that you were gonna cameo on this show, and you just
What?
rocket out of the
You think
sky and fall to the earth. It's like, oh my god. When did you find time to record this with your kids and your work and your
that looks
and our
like me?
podcast? Like, I was like, oh my god, it's Matt! It's Matt! He's on the screen! So,
I thought that they did a
I'm
great
kidding, man.
job. Yeah, yeah. So I guess I look like Daniel Wayman, the guy that plays the stranger.
Perfect. So,
Um,
what do you think? You think that that's Gandalf, huh?
Well, I don't know. I was
Mm.
talking to Elise that
Mm-hmm.
this could be a curveball that they throw in, that maybe it's Saruman.
Yes, or
Uh,
Sauron. There. That's the big rumor mill out there right now. Is that this is a big curveball for us, and it's everybody because everybody thinks that it's Gandalf. I mean, he looks like
yeah,
he they put
the
the
gray
gray
cloak
cloak
on
on
him.
him and everything, and so yeah, they're teeing him up to be Gandalf. But yeah, I do think that that's probably Sauron and everything, because like apparently in the books and everything, Gandalf actually comes in later. He doesn't come in this age as well, so it'd be
Oh,
really
okay.
interesting to see
Okay.
what happens with that.
Well, yeah, so that was my question because I knew that
Mm-hmm.
Saruman is older than him,
Mm-hmm.
and of course Sauron is.
Mm-hmm.
So it really could be anybody or at least any of those three,
Yeah.
and it's anybody's guess.
Anybody's guess.
So I enjoy that that's a mystery.
Me too.
I like that we're getting a lot of familiarity in the architecture of the different places.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell yet, as the trailers made me think that there's more to the race of men
Mm-hmm.
than what we've seen so far, in that we've seen kind of that village,
Yeah.
and like that is all that human beings are right now in Middle Earth. But I
Well,
don't know. Maybe we'll get to see a kingdom
Numenor.
or two out
Yeah.
there.
I think
So
I think my prediction is we're gonna see Numenor, the Numenorians as well. Those are the high caste humans in this world, and they have a lot more regal standing and whatnot. So
yeah.
an own island that's on its own. That's outside of Middle Earth as well. So really hope we do get to see that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, this could go a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I very much enjoyed it. It, like I said, wasn't boring for me, but
Me either.
I enjoy the um, the long the long story here.
Yeah.
I guess I
Me too.
enjoy seeing it or having it feel like a book laid out on screen, and
Yeah.
I believe that's what we're
And
getting.
I absolutely love those character moments, those real interactions, those real relationships that we're seeing in this, and that these people have connection and history together. That's like the best thing about episode 2 Adrift that I absolutely loved was the interactions between Elrond and Prince Durin, the dwarf prince from
Yeah, wasn't
Khazad-dûm.
that just classic?
That was so awesome. He was played by Owain Arthur, and the dynamic between those two characters was great. I mean, just seeing the,
Yeah.
I just love that so much. And like the whole second episode of Drift was kind of like these unlikely pairings that we're seeing. Galadriel had that human on while she was stranded at sea that was against her that they had to come together with, and Elrond had Durin that he had to come to grips with and work together with and try to form this thing with. And so you see the experience of time. I love that part, like when he's talking to Elrond and he's like, I missed 20 years, and he's like, oh, it's only been 20 years and everything. It's like, and Durin was like, that's a lifetime for me. I got married, I had children, you missed it all. And that definitely tugged on my heartstrings too. And the sincerity, it just of the eventual rekindling of their friendship was well written
Yeah.
and fun and definitely earned. And I think the writer for the second episode was is it Jennifer, because it's a G, Jennifer Hutchison.
Yeah, I think it's just pronounced Jennifer, but
So
still.
sorry, Jennifer Hutchison, but you did an amazing job writing that second episode. It was beautifully done. I absolutely love that too. So those mean a lot to me more. I love those moments more than action pieces, honestly. Like that got me, and I had the feels, and I was invested in that relationship and that storyline. So good on you.
Now, a couple of things for me, because I don't think the series was perfect, but what really ever is. And something that it's not necessarily a qualm, but I was questioning a little bit, like where is the magic? In Lord of the Rings,
Mm,
we saw some spell casting and these characters that we know will become, versed in magic. Is it just that Galadriel doesn't know it yet? or she hasn't been trained in that sort of thing. Like, where is that aspect to this? We get a little bit of like the stranger kind of yelling and the
Yeah,
trees bending and that sort of thing, but that's
true.
about it as far as magic goes.
I think we're gonna get more of that as the show goes on, and I remember Peter Jackson talking about during Lord of the Rings, he really tried to mute the magical elements as much as possible and try to be as practical as can be. So it's interwoven in this series and in this franchise to be more muted with the magical elements. So I do believe that they'll come in more. That stranger that we see him doing certain things with fireflies and stuff like that. We'll also get to see the formation of the Rings of Power. They talked about the hammer that actually forged the Silmarils, the jewels and everything that actually came from the trees over in Valinor. This is all magical stuff that's in the background too, and so one of the other things you got to understand too is they talk about this character called Morgoth, and we've never been introduced to a character like that. We're familiar with Sauron, so if you're just a casual viewer, you probably know nothing about him. But Morgoth in the series is like the Lucifer character in Tolkien's story. He was an angelic being of Valar who fell because of his pride. Sound familiar? It's basically Lucifer. And Sauron was one of the Maor, which is an ancient spirits created to help shape the world. So he was made to actually be a force of good. All these characters start in a good place and end up in a bad place. So nobody starts off evil. Yeah, that's one of the main themes in Lord of the Rings. And originally he was named Meron, Sauron was, and
Right.
he just loved order and perfection, and that's what drew him to Morgoth. And Morgoth actually sensed he would be able to help achieve his goals, so they partnered up. But their agendas were markedly different, and because Morgoth wanted to just destroy everything, whereas Sauron he wanted absolute power. He wanted everybody to be working for him. So Morgoth dies, and like basically that scene where Galadriel's brother is in the big fight, that's basically the end of Morgoth in that war. And so we don't get to see a lot of it on screen and whatnot, but it's in the background, and now we're solely focused on Sauron again, about finding Sauron. So again, it's bringing in these elements that, it's a different world, but they're bringing in elements of things that we know, and that's pretty smart. I like that idea of, we're put into this place, but we have these familiar anchors all over the place. Sauron, Galadriel, Elrond, all this stuff. So it's
Yeah.
really cool to see.
Some of that I wonder if it is. So it's great to have the familiarity. We've got the different races that we're reintroduced to,
Right.
the younger versions, but some of it almost feels like a little bit of a retread. The storyline that we're getting, sort of the doomed romance between
Mm,
the elf and the human.
yeah.
I don't think it's any fault to the actors. I'll say Ismail
Mm,
Cruz
yeah.
Cordova plays
The most
Arn.
gorgeous elf I've ever.
Right. Yeah. Guy just has amazingly
Yeah.
striking eyes.
Yes.
And then Nazanin Bonid oh man. Boniardi.
Apologize to everybody. We mess up names. We're human. You get
Yeah.
it. You probably get it all the time. Apologies.
She plays Bronwyn, his romantic
Yeah.
interest, and the human, the mother that goes after and takes down the. I'm guessing it was an orc that came out of
Yeah,
the
that was an
bottom of
orc.
the. Such an awesome shot. She
Yeah.
just lays the head up on the bar, like,
Right?
okay, you can
Yeah.
call me a liar.
Yeah.
But
It's like we're gonna leave
yeah,
by daybreak. If you want to live, you're gonna
right,
come with us.
yeah, Terminator moment.
So my
Um,
question to you too: what do you think about that sword? What do you think is going on with that sword that the kid finds, her son finds?
so I didn't know that was a sword. Like you're talking about with sort of the
Mhm.
hilt that lights up and
Yeah.
has the.
And if you notice
Yeah,
when the blood was drawn out and incorporated into that hilt, the sword began to grow. So it's basically mending
that's
itself.
true.
So
Yeah.
I have
I
my
don't know.
theories. I don't know for sure, but what I kind of think is the essence of Sauron is actually in that sword, and maybe that's the way he comes back. I don't know for sure. I don't know if anything in
It,
the books back that up, but I figured it was something
yeah,
like that because it's drawing on lifeblood for it to rebuild itself too. So it's similar to the ring in a way. It's a predecessor of the ring, if it were. So
yeah,
that's my theory. You heard it here first on Fatherly Fandom. Let's see if I'm right during this season, maybe in a few
yeah. And
seasons.
I think that didn't we get introduced to Isildur in
Isildur!
episode, which ties in directly to the transfer of the ring from Sauron, to eventually the bottom of the river, where it gets picked up by Gollum. But yeah, so we may be getting hints of where the development of all of that
Yeah.
initially occurred. So,
And there has been
uh,
confirmation too. We were introduced to the Southlands for the first time in Middle Earth, and this wasn't something that was on any of the maps during Lord of the Rings. But it has been confirmed because Amazon released a map of Middle Earth in the Second Age ahead of the premiere, and it really confirmed that the Southlands is going to become Mordor. So that's why they're all
oh,
digging. The orcs are digging underneath. That's why, and they do reference. They say the elves commented that the land was once barren, presumably because of historic volcanic activity in that area
oh,
too.
there you go.
So yeah, that's why you're seeing all that activity in there. And that's where we're headed in this storyline, I think. So there you go. That'll be real interesting to
Lots
see.
of lots of exciting stuff coming up.
Right. Oh man, so much.
I can't wait. But for me, overall, first two episodes
Mm-hmm.
just on their own, not based on the potential of where this could go, the acting, the effects, the story. I give it, um, I give it a 9 out of 10. I was really that
High
impressed. So
praise. Good.
not
Good.
perfection, but very. Sorry,
I didn't
got
hear
the
anything.
kids in the back.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so 9 out of 10. I think it was very, very well done. What
Nice.
about you, buddy?
Okay, so I took them individually here. So episode one, I would give an 8 out of 10 is the rating that I would give it, and episode two also an 8 out of 10. So basically those two episodes, 8 out of 10 for me. I'm real excited to see it. There were a lot of stuff in there, a lot of stuff for, and I thought about casual viewers as well. It's like, we had a huge time jump and a lot of history going on. It's very dense and a lot to take in. But it's beautifully done. I mean, $58 million per episode, and it's being well spent. And these are movies, for God's sakes, and they're
Yeah.
beautifully done. And I want to be reserved with my ratings because I know that there's going to be so much that we're going to be seeing moving forward in this series, and I'm probably going to have a few 10 out of 10 episodes here. So I was like, reserve my my ratings right now. It wasn't perfect. Yeah, there were definitely some things that weren't perfect in this, but I absolutely loved this ride. I'm excited about Lord of the Rings again. I'm excited to see this. And I know that some fans might have some problems with some of the tweaks that they're doing with the characters, like the older brother. I'm very curious to see what Danny thinks of it, cuz he's read all the Lord of the Rings books as well as the ancillary material and stuff. So we should
Yeah.
we should definitely talk to him this week, see if he's watching the show for one, and if he is, we can get his comments on it if we can as well, if he's okay with
But
that.
in fact, Andrea, so these are friends of ours
Yeah.
from northern Idaho or from Washington, Tri-Cities area,
Hmm.
and they very much fans of fantasy fiction and definitely Tolkien. So she said she liked it a lot. She
That's
actually, because
awesome.
of course, just the fact that this and House of the Dragon are premiering
Hmm.
or going on at the same time, the
Right.
comparison is gonna happen. And
It's
she
gotta.
said she likes them both, but does like Lord of the Rings a little bit better because of that sense of hope and
Yeah,
stuff.
I
And
agree. And they are two different flavors, honestly. Like, and there's going to be comparisons. They're fantasy,
yeah,
but they really are two different types of flavors. You're getting something different here than you are
yeah.
with House of the Dragon. They're both
Now,
excellent in their own ways, but different.
I was going to say, having said that, Sunday's episode maybe one of the best so far, and we'll get all into that in our next review.
Hmm.
But yeah, it
Which is
might have
coming
me
out
eat my.
Tuesday. So,
That's right. Yep, check it out
mhm.
tomorrow,
Yeah.
and that's a 9 out of 10 from me.
Yep.
8 out of 10 for both the first two
Hmm.
episodes from Chris.
Right.
We really hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Fatherly Fandom. We got lots more coming out every single week. We try to review as much as we can, bring extra information to enhance your viewing experience. Check us out. Smash the subscribe button, the like button. Look us up on Twitch,
Hmm.
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, of course. We live stream every Sunday.
Yep.
So enjoy these episodes. Let us know how we can get better. And
Yeah.
from all of our families to yours,
Yeah. And if you hit this button right here, you'll be able to subscribe. If you hit the button over to the side right here, you can hit one of our other videos. I don't know where I'm pointing. Right here. You can hit one of our other videos that we have up here. So yeah, from our families to yours,
have a good one.
have a good one.